Hello everyone. Welcome back to Let's Talk Business. Appreciate you being here, and like I said earlier, if you're watching us on 94 or listening to us on 94.5 The Answer in Greenville, you can also pick us up on podcast, the biggest podcast platforms such as Spotify and Google and Apple, and we are also a weekly TV series or YouTube series, and you can just go to our YouTube pages and check us out there. But however you are joining us, appreciate you being here. Up next is Andy Decker. Andy is the CEO for Hofmann USA Staffing. Andy, welcome.
It's great to be here, Rick. Thank you.
It is good to have you here. I was talking to Jennifer Moorfield just a little bit ago in this episode. Jennifer is with Greenville Technical College, and we were talking a whole lot about workforce and labor issues, and I want to get into all of that with you here in just a second. You being with a very large staffing agency that has an office in Greer, is that correct?
Correct.
And but you sit in Atlanta?
That's where our U.S. headquarters is located.
Gotcha. Okay. Is Greer the only South Carolina office?
Yes.
Okay. Where else do you have offices?
So we have offices in Northern Virginia, in New York, in Dallas, in Houston, in LA, and several throughout Atlanta. But we served clients in 23 states last year.
All right, now that's interesting. Every city that you just said right there was a large city, and then here you are in Greenville and Greer and these tiny towns. What brings you here?
Well, we've been in Greer for 10 years now.
Right.
We've been in the Greenville area for 10 years. We've been in Greenville now since 2020, in Greer since 2023. One of our largest clients, our largest industries is automotive.
Makes
As
sense.
you can imagine, IK Hofmann USA is part of Hofmann.
Yeah.
The Hofmann Group, which is a German-based organization.
Okay.
So we've been serving automotive clients and
Right.
German automotive clients for 38 years now.
And we dabble just a little bit in auto manufacturing
Just
here
a little
in the
bit.
Upstate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we are a growing advanced manufacturing hub, as anyone who's listening to this show knows, with BMW here. But we also got auto manufacturers throughout South Carolina. Which ones do you do business with? How's that work?
Yeah, we do business with a number of the tier 1 suppliers at BMW, and BMW is our largest client. We've
Okay.
been their second partner now for a little over 2 years, and we have about 400 people strong going to work today and tomorrow.
How about that?
Yeah.
Tell us about your services. What do you offer?
Sure. So we provide contract to hire, and direct hire staffing throughout the United States. We do it in a number of industries, and we do all positions such as HR, accounting, IT, but really we've grown up in the light industrial space, so production, manufacturing, and things like that. We served 20 states last year, and we're in 8 countries, in 7 other countries in Europe besides the U.S.
Got it. You all are larger than I expected, so I'm glad to have you here talking about this. I did not have a good picture of just how much you covered. 23 states.
23.
And outside the country as well.
Yes.
Let's talk about workforce and the labor market. The labor market looks pretty good in Greenville. The last numbers I saw, unemployment rate was about 2.1%, which is minuscule. Better than South Carolina, and much, much better than the United States as a whole. What are you finding in the Upstate?
Absolutely. So I look at a number of things, and over the last 20 years, we've seen some trends. Staffing is generally one of the leading indicators of what's happening in the U.S. Last year was the biggest year in the U.S. staffing industry by a long shot. This year it'll be about the same. It might be up a little bit, it might be down a little bit, but it's still going to be, let's say it'll be 210 billion as compared to 160 billion in 2019, where we thought the market was fantastic.
Now, you say this was one of the biggest years for staffing ever?
Correct. Last year was.
Now, is that just because of the bounce back? I mean, basically, is that where we're looking at? There's got to be more at play than that, though.
So there's a few things. We have, last year in March, it was the most open jobs the U.S. economy had ever seen. 12.5 million jobs at the end of March open, to about 5.5 million people looking for jobs. When we went into the downturn, we like to use the February of 2020 as sort of an indicator of where we were. 158 million Americans working, almost 6 million unemployed. We're sitting at 160 million people employed, but only still about that 5.7 million unemployed. But we have 9-10 million jobs open. So there's 2 jobs for everybody. Now, South Carolina, as you said, doing much better than that. South Carolina has about 80,000 unemployed to almost 200,000 open jobs. And then the upstate, again, you're right. There's within 25 miles of Greenville, there's probably 45,000 open jobs and 12,000 unemployed people.
Do you have any feel, and this just may be the way it is, or maybe it's the type of industries that are located in the upstate, but do you have any feel why Greenville at 2.1%, and some of the surrounding counties good as well, not as good as Greenville, but still below 3, why are we performing better in that regard than elsewhere?
Sure. I think it's happening a little bit in the Southeast overall. You did see that we stayed open in some states through at a different rate, and that kept more people at work. A lot of people here, as you pointed out, make products. Spartanburg BMW makes BMWs that have already been sold, so they're not going to stop making those.
Right.
And then you just have a robust culture and an economy that is right for business, similar to what we feel in Georgia, and that's kept job growth happening.
Yeah.
And we haven't, though the MSA probably has another 10,000 people living here over 2 years ago, there's another 20,000 open jobs. So it's just a good place to live and work.
I would agree with that. We talk a lot about on this show about this is a great place to live and work. Let's talk about COVID just a little bit more. When COVID hit us, and we're talking March of 20, right?
Yes.
When COVID hit us, you fast forward a year from March of 20, and all of a sudden, employees had a whole lot of leverage in the process of working. They began to make demands that employees had to meet, or employers had to meet oftentimes because of what was happening, working remote and that kind of thing. Where are we now from a couple years? Is that starting to circle back to the way it was, or is it still that way?
Yeah, it's been interesting watching. The biggest indicator still sits with this. There's twice as many open jobs as unemployed people. And when that's the case, they're playing musical chairs with more chairs than people. So they still have a lot of leverage.
Yeah.
Here in the upstate, or when you look at manufacturing or production, that's not something where you can grab an unemployed person from Oregon to work remotely.
Right.
So when you have jobs like that, there's still more pressure to find people who are willing to come in. And because of that, it still feels a little bit like a candidate market. They have a lot of leverage just because they have choices. One of the interesting things, though, as we look at that from February of 2020 or March of 2020, we've come full circle in that we have over 2 million more people working today than we had then. Mm-hmm. So the whole, no one's going back to work. No, people went back to work. There's more people working than were working before. It's just people didn't go back to low-paying jobs. So right now, companies have had to respond with more money and to keep the very best talent or attract the very best talent.
Right. I'll get you out of here on this. Look into that crystal ball of yours. What does your gut tell you? What is the economy going to look like for the upstate and South Carolina in the remaining part of this year and heading into 24?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you that, but I would say all the indicators that I look at from where's staffing, it usually goes into a recession about 6 months ahead of the economy, and where is the production and manufacturing, everything still seems good. If we weren't listening to the news, we wouldn't be talking ourselves into a recession, which is what we're trying to do right now.
That's interesting. That's an interesting way to put it. Andy, I appreciate you being here.
It was great to talk to you.
You too. Folks, that is Andy Decker. He is the CEO at Hofmann USA Staffing. Appreciate him being here, but don't go anywhere. We're going to take a short break, just 30 seconds, and we'll be right back. Here's a company you should know.